Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Wind Down Wednesday. Today is April 9th, 2025. So excited for tonight to hang out with y'all, but go ahead and grab what you need to get comfortable and cozy. Grab a warm blanket, grab your water or your beverage of choice. We'll see you back here in about 30 seconds. All right. I am so excited for tonight because I get to hang out with two amazing human beings. And I'm sure you all already know and see their names and faces, and you're like, I already know them, Carly. They don't need an introduction, but we're going to go ahead and do some introductions. So, Sarah, I'm going to start with you. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're about, what you do, all the good things.
Well, my name's Sada Saeed, and I am currently a high school ELL English teacher. So I am the the English literature person, but I teach ELL students at U46's, which is Elgin School District, if you're not familiar with that, at their alternative high school, the Dream Academy, which I've been there for 3 years now. It's been a blast. Throughout my career, I've been an ELL director. I've been an assistant principal. I've done it all, but I could tell you that the classroom is truly where the heart is. And I think it's actually been very good in guiding a lot of my writing because you obviously see me on Edutopia. You obviously, have seen me do some work with Confianza. I'm doing some work with reimagining migration. And a lot of it comes from those day-to-day experiences and interactions I have with students and teachers. And so, many of you know me from social media. I don't know how much of an introduction I need.
That's right. That's beautiful. Well, we're so excited to join you. All right. And would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Thamar Al-Jaburi. Just a little bit about myself. I'm an educator who's spent quite a few years in multilingual programs. Um, just a little bit of my background. I'm I started as a science teacher, particularly STEM for ELL, and then I expand my knowledge in being bilingual and uh, ESL, even finance. I've been working in a close range with the uh, elementary for last 6, 7 years, and it's been very rewarded. Right now, I'm a teacher, second grade in bilingual Arabic program in Rockwood Public School, kind of unique program in Midwest. I believe we are maybe with the other few might have that. And the initial thing, I started like volunteering before I was used to be a contractor, federal contractor. I started being interested to volunteer at school with my neighbor and encourage a population there. And I started liking it. Like it seems like very challenging in many perspectives. So I started actually doing that, and then I felt like, oh wow, that's really motivating seeing those students growing. So here we are, and keep doing it.
Love it. That's wonderful. Well, thank you both so much for being here tonight. And before we hop into our topics, I want to just give a quick note that for all of us who are watching tonight, either live with us this evening or you're catching the recording later on, me and Sarah are going to be at the same event next month. It's not going to be in Illinois, but I know we have folks who view the show from different states. So for all of our friends in Michigan, we'll get to hang out next month. So we're both really excited for that. Sarah, do you want to tell us a little bit about your session?
Yeah, my session is actually going to be on ORC and really how do we build those scaffolds in our classrooms in order to support ORC, but still also like maintain what Tara and I are talking about tonight, which is neuroplasticity, and be able to build students so that they have the confidence to speak in the classroom, but they can also do more challenging work.
Awesome.
That is not challenging linguistically, but challenging in terms of content. You know, we always forget about that. Just a side note, because we are, you know, streaming live to people in so many states, I will also be at ISTE this summer. I am so excited to go to San Antonio. But I will be speaking about Canva for culturally responsive teaching and learning. It's actually something I did at IdeaCon. And then I'm going to be doing some work in the mental health playground. Wellness and mental health playground. And also I will be, again, speaking about ORC. And I know this year ISTE is different because it's actually going to be fused with ASCD. Okay. So it's going to be like this, like, not just giant, super giant conference.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's amazing.
In Texas.
That's fantastic. So for friends who are attending ISTE, make sure you look her up and you got to hit her session. You got to hit her session. Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. That's super exciting. So I'm really excited for y'all to share with everyone watching a little bit about tonight's topic. So we can kind of hop in anywhere. And then I'm also going to drop in a little bit a link to an article that they've co-authored for it was Edutopia, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So if I am looking at the topic, it's streaming along the bottom, neuroplasticity for multilingual learners, there might be folks watching who I'm like, who are like, okay, neuroplasticity, what even is that? So if you were to give like a quick even definition of what that might include, like what would you share? What is this about?
I mean,
Sarah, you wanna?
Thamer, go ahead.
Yes. So I think that the overall idea is when it comes to the student and the process of their learning, you just think about it, like how those students, those children brain is kind of like a flexible uh, material that will a particular pattern of usage or particular practices, this brain can be more effective, more triggering to do more. And what we just noticed, me and myself and Sarah, about that is for multiple language learner, is those guys get really encouraged and motivated to do more, the more challenging they see whatever they do. So we kind of try to invest, in a way that in a task that they make them analyze, create, justify, uh, and also uh, the overall of a problem solving and a critical thinking. And we notice there's always a pattern for those students, and that's why we try to, with this article, to tell all educator, or at least, and their brain is ability to adapt and form of a new connection, and those multi learner can be adapt their adaptability that they have can be change with more and strengthening their cognitive pathways in a way that make them prosper it. So it's not just about language, but it's also, again, is more about problem solving and critical thinking. But do you agree with me, Sarah?
Yeah, it's really like a lot of times what I would see, like having been in so many classrooms, is like think about ELL services at the elementary level, for example. It's those lower levels of taxonomy that people are always focusing on. And gaining language proficiency is a person gaining language proficiency. It doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have those abilities to problem solve. They don't have those abilities to create. So when we're in the classroom and we're thinking about those standards and we're thinking about how do we build learning targets for those standards, just because a student is still trying to gain language proficiency, it doesn't mean we look at the lowest level of the taxonomy and say, this is ELL students. So we know, we can't analyze the text. We just have to comprehend because they are ELL students. Now, with our ELL students, we do have to build, right, upon language. Like if I'm in an English class, yeah, I do have to build the comprehension still. I'm not saying we don't touch that, but that's a phase. We still then, from there, we layer those levels onto the analysis and later that evaluation and judgment. So that students can, like in my class, we do a lot of Socratic seminar fishbowls. I love fishbowls. And it takes a while for us to layer it, right? So right now we're in my 10th grade English. We're reading Gary Paulson's Stop the Sun, which, level wise is there. And we're going to be reading A Rose for Emmeline. We're going to be reading Edgar Allan Poe's A Telltale Heart. We're going to be building towards those higher level texts. And then we're going to turn around and we are going to have a Socratic seminar comparing all three texts and how the characters, like mental health, something I really like to talk about. So how are the characters in the text responding to the environment around them? And then we're going to be using text evidence and analyzing and coming up with reasoning and all that, and also evaluating judgment and thinking, which author did this better? But you have to build. But it doesn't mean you can't do it. It might take you a little longer to do it, but you still have to do it. You still can do it.
Yes. I think something that I can appreciate that you both kind of touched on is maintaining high standards for our students, for all students, but for our multilingual students in particular. We're not watering down stuff. We're not just like making stuff super simple. We can, again, like you said, both of you said it, we can linguistically support, right? And we can build upwards, but we're not like watering down expectations. We're maintaining high expectations,
yes.
So that students can reach those higher levels than the higher cognitive demands.
Yes, absolutely. Raising the support.
Yes.
Keep the high bar. That's what I always encourage my colleagues doing that when they have a student that come from different backgrounds. I think that overall, like even myself, like I see that in particular, like even in newcomers student, they build strong argument. We use like a sentence frames. They have the peer support. The time they were engaged because they saw the value in the challenge, and we trusted to meet it. And then I think that's what, in general, I think that the idea, you just to try to give this challenge with the support in order to kind of raise this bar and keep receiving this high expectation, or at least make them successfully met those expectations.
So, go ahead.
Carly, I had a director, and I forgot who it was, once call it, you can't do body part bingo all the time.
I love that.
Because when newcomers come, what does everybody want to do? Let's play bingo. Let's do body part bingo. We're going to learn all our body parts. They know their body parts. They need to know the words for them, fine. But let's move beyond that. Let's move beyond the body part bingo and talking about pumpkins. I don't know how many times I've walked in on an elementary teacher talking about pumpkins in October. And I get it. It's October. They need to learn. Sure. But like, is that the only thing we're going to learn? Right. Is what color is the pumpkin and what do we use a pumpkin? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like yes. It has to go. You know what I'm talking about because you are in a lot of classrooms. Yeah. It has to go beyond that.
Yes. And it can have its time and place and space for sure. But when we're looking at ways to maximize opportunities for our students, we got to raise the bar. We've got to raise the bar. So when you have a colleague or a teammate or just somebody in the network, right, who says Oh, well, it's just too hard for our students. This is just too hard. What is your response to that? How would you respond to a colleague so that we can kind of encourage them to start
Yeah.
like, no,
I will say, come visit me in my classroom. They will definitely change their mind about it. And I think that's actually happening even with my own school, other teacher who comes and visit. There's always this, you know, keep in mind those students also, they have a really high motor skill. And this is actually a good initiative. And that's why I'm doing the STEM.
mm,
It feels like embedded. They can grow really fast with it.
mm,
I think even recently we've been trying to making project of building boats. We're talking about steamboats and who invent them and how's that happen. And that's like I then I grab so many different materials, and you know what? I put it in different areas in the room and say, "Oh, go ahead, build your boat,"
yeah,
and you can see theirs was like a wonderful things and ideas how the student put together things to make it flow. There is a small container I have with water, and it's just like, hey, your only task is make sure this boat is floating, and if it's float, that's it, you pass. And you can see the motivation. It was like on it,
yeah.
and everybody excited. Everybody wanna get that, even with the time frame I have at that time. It was very motivating.
I love that. I love that. Wow. Okay. So you guys have talked about a few different things now. We've talked about like some hands-on, some STEM, right? They're like fully engaged. We've also talked about like analyzing and like analyzing three separate texts across three different like levels, right? And
Mhm.
synthesizing across all these texts. So there's a lot that kind of fits underneath this umbrella. So I want to talk a little bit about the article. And I'm going to pop this along the bottom of the screen, and I'll also drop it in the comments so that our folks who are joining us live tonight, you can see it. Let me grab it and pop it into the chat here. So if you would like to just click on it right away, you sure can do that. But tell us a little bit about how the article came to be, and like, do you have like one moment or one piece of the article that you really want educators to like hold on to?
I think we were just kind of back and forth on like the idea that like, regardless of where our students are language wise, like we can challenge them. And we both of us have a lot of interest in, culturally responsive teaching and learning in the brain, and how Zaretta Hammond, laid it out. I work in a school building where we're very passionate about that. Yeah, girl. Loretta's the queen. But I worked in a school building where like everyone's really passionate about it. My principal's, I'll shout her out, Mary Mangione. She's very passionate about like that work. So like we were doing it in our school, and him and I were talking about like how he's doing these things too. And we're like, you know what, let's just write something about this because it's really like key. In the article, I actually talk about like, how my students explored murals in Pilsen.
Yeah.
We were doing rhetoric. Okay. We were on a rhetoric unit, senior English. And I always, my population is majority Hispanic. And so I always try to do what I can. I'm not Hispanic, I'm Middle Eastern, but I try to learn, and I do what I can to infuse the culture there. And those murals in Pilsen tell such a story. And when kids from Elgin, they love going to Chicago. It's a long ride, but they love going to Chicago. And someone like, what's this Pilsen place you're talking about? So, we got approved, and we went on this field trip, and we analyzed, the different murals and the arguments that those painters, those artists were trying to make. Like, and there's some pretty deep arguments. I don't know if you've ever seen that mural, Gulliver's Travels, but that one, it's right next to the Mexican Art Museum. And it's this mural about and this guy's like being chained down, and he's huge, and all these things are going around him. And like, we're researching and finding all these things out. And the author did it to like show what it's like for laborers from, Hispanic countries when they come over, and how, things aren't as accessible as they think they should be. And they're chained down by the identity and some of the things that are happening. So my kids, that was deep. But that, from there, we could easily talk about the ethos, pathos, and logos of it, and how even the colors bring out the ethos, pathos, and logos of the art. So it was looking at rhetoric from a different standpoint. We looked at text in my class. Yes, we looked at written text, but this was just a different way of viewing it.
Yes. Oh, that's so powerful.
And honestly, sometimes looking at the visual is actually more challenging than looking at the prints.
Yes.
And you have to work, you really have to work your brain.
Yes. I completely agree with what you just said. 1,000%. Because there's
Some
so
people think,
many
visual, you're making it too easy. No, sometimes
it's
can
not.
actually challenge.
That is 1,000% true. 1,000%.
And that's like definitely what I agree with Sarah about it. And so, okay, from my end, it's just like I always kind of try to bring a project that's relevant their culture, their background. So I think last time when presenting an idea 2025, I bring the history of bridges and those student different background. They have those bridges are very famous. Everybody loved those bridges. They want to cross over. They have some memories and excitement about it too, and that's all relevant to trigger this support that to make them relevant to what they do, excited about what they do, and then guess what? Yes, you can see it. You feel the motivation, the energy, the connection that they're missing. And I think that's definitely helping in a way. Same what Sarah mentioned for her art relevant area.
So I know that folks are going to be diving into that article, and they're probably going to be able to take a whole lot of different things from it, because I think it does, like, it encompasses so many different things, and it plays into any grade level, any content area, and it's for every proficiency level. It's not just for students at higher proficiencies. It is for all multilingual students and monolingual students too.
Yeah. Awesome. I think also in our classrooms, like I said, that is the best book I ever read in education. I read it in right after it came out. I think it was 2018, 2019, something like that. And it was so eye-opening, the things that Rosetta Hammond talked about, especially when it comes to how do we, view our students, and the idea of being a warm demander. I think sometimes our colleagues will want to make things easy because they don't want to stress students out.
Yeah.
And I understand that. I also do a lot of work in wellness and mental health. I get it.
Right.
But what's going to help the students are the scaffolds and supports that you provide, so that you scaffold up, not down, in order to achieve the content. I've had those conversations with colleagues. It's too hard. And, my response is more of a questioning response, and I'll just look at them. Okay, what makes this hard? Let's talk about what makes this hard. Sometimes I do it through more of a cognitive coaching lens, like how can we make it so it's not that hard, and that we get there.
Right. Asking the question, right? Unlocking the magic, because the teacher knows. The teacher knows. All of us have the capacity, right, to serve and support all of our students. But sometimes we do need a little bit of a pushing, and just that encouragement. So if you say this is going to be hard, what might you do to support the student as they navigate the challenge of this task? Many times the teacher already knows the answer. They just haven't been pushed to ask, right? To be asked that question. I love that.
Sometimes as teachers, we don't want things to be messy.
Yeah.
But sometimes we have to work through the mess in order to gain the knowledge.
Yes.
And I think you have to allow kids that productive struggle. And try to allow them to be challenged. Allow them to turn to you and start asking you questions, and you ask the questions back, and you you know, you don't give them the answers, but you guide them to the answers.
Yes. Yeah.
And, you know, it's a big push in the, not just the school I work in, but the entire district I work in. And that's, how do we find ways to make students cognitively do the work more so that they are engaged and they're not just engaged, but they're learning and they're growing. Because you could be engaged, it doesn't mean you're learning.
And also, Sarah, like as you mentioned earlier, like how you guys mentioned earlier, like, you know, what is wrong? Let's just talk about it. So, you know, and you need to keep in your mind is a mindset. So some educators still see language learner as a not ready for their grade level work. Also, the time and the training, the school need PD for model or how the scaffold without, you know, lower error. So it's kind of like a call, like, this is what you need to understand. If you if that's a mindset you have, like those guys not going to make a potential, guess what? It's going to be this is going to follow that narrative that you have in your mindset. But if you have the opposite one, you're also definitely going to reach to the higher end when you can see those student improvement. So it's like it's very important to understand this mindset and change it to. And that's our work. What is about? It's like it's just don't just pass whatever you have been experienced or maybe heard or something like that. Just give it a try. Have the this positive energy and move it forward with that.
Yes, I love that. And it's so true. It's the mindset, right? Like, and students will rise to whatever bar we set. So if we keep the bar low, they're going to stay there. But if we keep the bar high, they're going to rise. They're going to rise.
Yep. And those students, they just motivated with the challenge. So when it's give them something easy, they just kill this creativity, motivation.
And we always, when I taught third grade for a bit, we would have this thing, and I would catch myself doing it too. And so I think it was important to model that too. Like, and I'm like, oh, you guys, this is really hard. This is really hard for me. Like if I was struggling with something that I was like working on outside of, the classroom, I would tell myself, like, I'm really struggling with this. And they'd be like, Mrs. Spina, you just got to get it done. You got to roll up your sleeves, Mrs. Spina, and like, you got to work through it, right? Girlfriend, get it together. And I'd be like, yeah. But it was also great too, because when they would catch themselves saying, oh, this is really hard. Oh, I got to roll up my sleeves, right? I got to really dig into this. I got to lean into the hard stuff. And we're like, yeah, we do. We really do. But it was nice to be able to say it out loud because it normalized it, right? Like, let's embrace the hard stuff.
I want to talk about normal students or not normal, older students. Why did I say normal? Because you said normal. Older students. It's
been a long day.
It's been a long day. I want to talk about older students. And sometimes with older students, like they've been put through the ringer so much.
Yeah.
Like when they get to high school, sometimes you do find behaviors like, when you think about trauma responses, like kids put their heads down.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a freeze response to something being too hard, or they ask to go to the bathroom. They want to flee. They ask to go to the bathroom. And so in the older grades, you really have to spend time building the community, I feel like, to where kids know that this is a safe place to take risks. Yeah. This is a safe place to be challenged. And we will support you through the challenge as you're pushing through, right? But with high school students, a lot of times, especially some who have been long-term ELLs, because a lot of times we don't think about that. You have to build their trust.
Yeah.
Before you can challenge them.
Yeah.
And that comes in those first, interactions, those first few days. Again, my district works with academic teaming a lot. And I think finding the right teams, sometimes teachers will group kids together, but it doesn't mean that's the right group for them. We want to think about language levels. Like, I wouldn't put like a, newcomer level 1 with somebody that's exiting, because that might be too big of a gap. But like maybe a level 2 and a 3, but also personality is important. Personality sense of, do they get along, or are they getting along too much to a point where they're not getting anything done? So like finding those groupings to where they feel safe in that community to then be able to push through those challenges, I think is important too. Like we got to think of the SEL side of it.
That's huge, because I can give you all the scaffolding in the world, but if you're not safe languaging or learning with the group that you're with, all the scaffolding I can provide you and all the fun, engaging things and all the high level things, it's not going to be nothing, right? If I don't have that community built and I don't have that trust established. So that's a huge point. That's
And I think that sometimes language teachers at the high school level forget that. You know, especially when you've been doing it for so long, you're like, why isn't this kid responding to me? Why aren't they? And I mean, when I taught newcomers, I always called it the silent period. And even though, like, you know, I spent time in an Arabic speaking English ESL class where sometimes I would get a new kid and, you know, they just come from Yemen and they were only here for a couple weeks and they're super quiet. Even in Arabic, they're super quiet because they're also getting used to this new environment and new people and this new country and everything. And then suddenly you're able to get them engaged to at least talk to somebody. And then you got to build up to start to challenge them. Like it does take time. Like that's the thing. A lot of people don't realize it takes time. Like you can't do one activity and then be like, oh, well, it failed.
Right.
Yeah, no, you have to keep working to build.
Yes.
Yeah. Rigorous is not harder. It just means richer and relevant. Give them this relevant, and they're going to be much more toward what you're looking for. But hit them hard with something not relevant in their culture, not rich in a way that explore other ways of teaching a particular subject. That's definitely going to make it. It's just like we just have a bad communication between two individuals, and one individual should be knowledge enough to pursue the conversation, the communication in a way that the younger individual, which is a student or child, to receive it in a proper way. And I think the minute you do that, you'll but just see and things get so much better for sure.
Well, I want to thank both of you so much for sharing some of your expertise with neuroplasticity for multilingual learners. For everyone watching tonight, we do want to make sure that you guys get connected with these two educators. If you are not already, you can follow Sarah's everywhere. She's on every single social media platform.
It's like another job.
I know, it really is. It takes a lot of time. It's a lot of time. I know. But make sure that you get connected with both of them on socials, definitely on LinkedIn. And then be sure that you check out that Edutopia article. That would be a great one to bring back to staff meetings and like put it on your PLC agenda, just so you can have some conversations about these things and like bring it up to the team so that as you serve multilingual learners, you keep that bar nice and high, and you keep right. Like we elevate and maintain high levels of excellence, right, for all of our students.
Yeah, and I'll speak for myself, but I'm sure I'm speaking for Thamar too, where I say, like, if you have a question for one of us, honestly, just message us on LinkedIn. We'll probably answer you. I'm also on Twitter. I'm also on Blue Sky. I'm also on Facebook.
I see messages all overseas from. I have people in person come to where I live, sometimes asking questions, kind of guide. It's just an overall experience, and it's a momentum. You need to utilize it. We have a duty of encouraging our student to prosper. We are due to their families to kind of guide them, help them, support them, with enough knowledge to hopefully they can be by themselves and overall and expand this positive experience for everybody.
Yes. Well, thank you both so much, and thank you everyone for watching tonight.
Thank you, everyone. Again, feel free to connect with us.
Yes, absolutely.
We're a community. We're all here to help each other.
Love it. Bye.
Yep. Thank you so.